This is Remix Report with your hosts, DJ JD and DJ J Spring.
Today's video brought to you by YourDJSkins.com. Pimp your gear today.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Remix Report. I'm DJ JD.
I'm DJ J Spring, and today is another weekend recap. We're going to eventually talk to our friend Rob Riggs, who a lot of you have been inquiring about.
Yes.
From our Rubbing Records section. He will be on with us in a little bit. It's been a kind of a slow news week, I guess you could say. So after we talk to Rob, we're going to get into the state of the music a little bit. We'll touch on that. That's always a fun topic to talk about.
Definitely an interesting state that we're in right now, it seems like. So
it is. But I guess we'll start off how we usually start off, discussing our weekends. So I'll let you go first.
All right. Let's see. Friday was at Shrine. It wasn't super busy, but the crowd was actually awesome crowd. Definitely reactive, and definitely thought I played a better set than I have recently, I guess. I think I went like up and down tempos and just in and out quicker than I normally do, I guess, and it worked very well, and I was definitely happy with it. See, Saturday I was down in Stamford at 84 Park. DJ Prime brought me down there again. Awesome venue to play at. They actually had a private event right before I went on, a bar mitzvah that ended at 11.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. So they had a different DJ and MC and dancers and all this stuff in there for that, and then they cleared everybody out and opened up for the club at 11. The MC was definitely an interesting character, I gotta say. My fiance was there with me, and I kept bugging her, saying, "You shouldn't be sitting there on your phone and texting people. You should be up there hyping your man up." And he's like all like trying to be crazy, and he ended up basically molesting me while I was DJing.
Touching you?
Yeah, he did. Like,
do you want to talk about it?
It was awkward. He ended up getting kicked out. I do. So definitely some extracurricular things going on, it seemed like.
Okay. Sounds like this might not be the place to.
No, the place is great.
Talk about this.
Well, maybe Remix Report is not the place to talk about this. No, but 84 Park is awesome, and more than anything, it was pretty funny to watch this guy make a fool of himself. But definitely an interesting weekend. Then let's see, Sunday did a private event at High Rollers, which is our bowling alley. There was they're doing a golf tournament today to raise money for diabetes over at the casino, and they were having like a pre-event at High Rollers. So I did that, and then DJ'd Shrine afterwards, and yeah, that was my weekend. How about yours?
Well, no dudes touched me. That's a good start.
That's good.
On Friday, I was at Scorpion Bar, and that was actually a decent Friday night. I tried actually playing some different stuff than I've normally played myself, and when you try doing that, even if you've prepared ahead of time, like some different mixes that you haven't played ever before, even if you listen to them, when you actually get to the club and you mix those individual songs into other songs, you start realizing stuff that maybe you couldn't see beforehand when you were planning it. Like this song, after you mix out of that song, it doesn't really have as much energy as you thought it would, and so it didn't go perfectly, but I'm glad I did find some new songs, and maybe I'll mess around a little bit more trying to find better mixes to do. But Saturday I was back at Rain in Malden, Mass, which is right outside of Boston. You're going to be there, I think,
this weekend.
This coming weekend, yep. And it's always different DJing there because they don't really like any of the hip hop. Even the up-tempo mixes, they prefer you stay away from those as well. So it's tough trying to kind of fill that time that I would normally use playing the hip hop but the old school does go over very good.
And it's usually an older crowd there.
It is. It's a mix usually. There, when you say older crowd, I think there are more people who are, I want to say, over 35 than at a normal place. But there still is a good amount of. It's more of a mix, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So Michael Jackson kind of stuff does actually go over pretty good there, and I do get requests for that. So I don't know if you feel the same way, but when I'm doing something like this, it seems like you end up playing a lot of your go-to 3 or 4 song sets that you have. And you know, like when you play, I don't know, Too Close by Next, or which I do play even Primetime there. I was actually asked to play SWV because they're coming, they're going to have a show there soon, so I had to fit that into my Primetime set. And I even got asked to play Casey and JoJo by the manager. So I played that. That was the last song of the night. But I do find myself going to a lot of my, I mean, you have these from your private events, a lot of your go-to stuff, and you'll play those 3 or 4 classics in a row, and then you just got to figure out how to get back to the new stuff for a second, then figure out how to get back to the classics. So it's kind of more of a struggle piecing those mini sets together.
Trying to make it all make sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
when I'm at Rain. So that was my weekend.
Cool.
Nothing too eventful. You were at Shrine on Sunday also, right?
Yeah. So, I guess let's get to a couple quick news things before we talk to Rob Riggs about the DMC championship in New York, which he was at. First, I found there's a funny tweet between Steve Aoki and Sebastian Ledger. Steve Aoki tweeted, "If you believe in something, don't be afraid to speak your mind. Raise your fucking voice." And Sebastian Ledger replied, "At Steve Aoki, I believe that you are better with throwing cake to people than DJing. Thanks for asking."
Smiley face. I don't know. It's kind of funny, I guess, but stuff like that to me like doesn't really. I don't know. I'm not really into when people. We talk about this before, the whole freedom of speech thing. Just because someone asks something, doesn't mean that. Even if they ask, doesn't mean you have to say it.
It's funny because it's from another established DJ.
I thought you were gonna say. You know,
just a
people.
troll.
You know, how people say it's funny because it's true. I thought that's what you were gonna say. But
Now, there's also a little picture going around the internet that shows. We'll post it here, but shows a kid at a laptop with a Tractor S4 controller. Pretty sure it's an S4, and on the laptop it says "Real DJs play vinyl." Nothing better
shout
than
out
that.
to Prevo for sending us that.
In other news, Tupac is dead again. That's right. The company that did the hologram of Tupac filed for bankruptcy. So who knows exactly what will happen with all that technology, if they're going to reinvent themselves as a new company or sell the technology to another company to do this kind of stuff. But
We should buy it, and then we could pretend to do awesome interviews, like with Tiesto.
oh, that'd be sick. Good call. Good call.
Thank you. Full of ideas.
So, but for now, Tupac is dead once again. Very sad day.
It is said. Do we have any more news? This is like a slow news week.
Native Instruments released a couple teaser videos of a new mixer that they're going to be coming out with for Tractor, of course.
I like how they're doing these previews, kind of like Data Life does their previews for their songs that are coming out. Pioneer just had a preview for their thing that they released, their Super CDJ. And now we have another preview.
Well, something the movie industry has perfected for many years, the preview. So everybody else is latching onto it in our media age that we're in these days. So
I guess so.
it looks like a pretty cool piece of gear. Has a lot of buttons on it. Kind of controller / scratch mixer together, it kind of looks like. But I guess we'll have to see what the final result is once they actually announce it. So whenever that happens to be, which will hopefully be soon. I think that really does kind of wrap up the news.
We still have more to talk about, though. We're going to go to Rob right now because we haven't talked to Rob in a while. It's been too long. So let's go to Rob right now. Rob, are you there?
All right, so we're here with Rob Riggs, of course, from Remix Report. You've seen him with the Scratch tutorials. Oh, yeah. He was at the DMCs in New York this year, which was a few weeks ago now, probably a little more than a month now. We are, I guess, a little late covering the whole thing, but we're covering it nonetheless. So I guess give us a little breakdown of how the DMCs went this year.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been going out there, I think about 3 years now. I decided to start making the trip out there to New York every year for the for the U.S. finals, just because it's something I grew up watching on videotapes and cassette tapes, and never really been able to see it. So once I started to figure out, like, hey, I'm old enough now, I have the option to go out there and travel. Started making like a regular yearly trip out of it. So this year was no different. But I would say the attendance really this year was way down. That's one sort of disappointment about it. Talked to a few people about that since the whole weekend went down, and the vibe I've gotten from everybody is kind of reluctantly agreeing that it wasn't as good, but also sort of trying to make an excuse for it, sort of saying like, the attendance was never really that good in the first place, and more people really watch it on the video afterwards than actually attend in person. So I don't know, that may be true. I wouldn't doubt that. I mean, it's way easier to buy a DVD than plane tickets in a hotel and truck out there for the whole weekend. But
that's never really stopped anybody from like seeing the Red Sox and Yankees play. I mean, if people want to see it live, I think they'd go.
No, yeah, I totally agree. It's an excuse, So once people start making excuses for things, that's not a good sign. And I definitely don't want to sound like I'm down talking on the DMC battle. I mean, I was involved judging this year. Definitely want to support that battle, but we really could use more people supporting it right now, because of the state of everything that DJ culture is in. For a DMC battle to only draw like 100 people for a U.S. finals is kind of a scary situation,
That's in a huge city like New York too. Like and without people traveling far, you'd think there'd be enough core DJs in New York alone to pack a venue like that.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I would say half the people from the battle weren't even from New York, because I know what's his name, Lord Finesse, who was hosting, a few times was asking the crowd, like, where's everybody from? Make some noise if you're from Brooklyn, and make some noise if you're not from Brooklyn, make some noise if you're not from New York. And it was like half and half on most of those little call outs. And I think I remember even he was kind of like, damn, like, I thought New York was in the building, but I guess not, So it seems like people are traveling for it, but just not enough of them, and not enough locals attending it as well. So hopefully, I mean, last year's battle was incredible. Last year was the upward turn, when a bunch of the guys who used to battle all came back and sort of revived the spirit of it. And, everyone was pretty excited about it again. And I just feel like that feeling wasn't there for it this year. I mean, everyone who battled was still pretty good nonetheless, but it just didn't have that same energy that it had last year.
Did those same old guys come back and do it again this year, or did they just say forget it this year? Yeah,
I mean, Precision and ID, who were both in the battle last year, were kind of the two guys people were talking about from the previous year, along with Vajra, who obviously won last year. He didn't defend this year. I mean, he wouldn't have to be at the finals anyway to defend, but he would at least have to be at the U.S. finals if he wanted to try to place for Worlds. I believe that's how it works. So he didn't come back to battle. Precision and ID came back, and they took first and second. Precision taking first and ID taking second. So yeah, they came back. But I'm trying to think of, I mean, they were like the big three that people were talking about last year that were, really wondering if they were going to like revive the whole scene again. There was a lot of some new faces, some familiar faces. I mean, Immortal was our guy from New Orleans. Actually, he won that regional. He was there again this year. Concept won the Miami regional. He was there again, and they both plan on battling again, from what I've heard. But yeah, I mean, I guess it just didn't have that same feeling, you know. It was kind of like, all right, it's cool you guys came back, but, you know, we saw you all last year, so, you know, now what? What have you done for me lately, kind of thing.
So what was the level of the competition this year? Like, were there any new crazy scratches that, like, people developed that you hadn't really seen before, or was it kind of just more of the same old stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there were some, it's been like, yeah, like you said, like a month and a half now since the battle, you know, and it's hard to remember like that 6 minutes of everybody's routine.
Was there anything that really blew you away that you saw?
Honestly, not really. Like nothing crazy new and innovative. You know, I don't, again, want to sound like I'm talking bad about anybody in the battle, but at this point, it's been pushed to the limit, you know, like from what the DMC started as to where it became like 10 years ago, and then where it became 5 years after that, and all the way up until like 2000, like it really got pushed to the limit. So it's almost kind of reverted in a way. Like it's great that they started incorporating the digital aspect, so that at least a lot of the guys who might not have entered, you know, decided to. Like I'm pretty certain that some of these guys, even the old school guys who were battling back in the day, might not have wanted to re-enter a battle if it was still vinyl only, just, you know, for the sake of time and having to get all those records pressed up again and everything. So that's cool, but at the same time, it also kind of, I feel like it limits people's creativity in a way where, you know, when you used to watch a battle, everything they were doing was on a record, and the time and the hours you would have to spend to like find those perfect records, cue them up in like a certain way. How were you going to switch from one to the other without like making it boring while you're going from record to record? Like a lot of that kind of got lost, and now it's just like, oh, I just push a button and now I'm into the second part of my routine, and now I push a third button, and it's kind of the same thing that people started faulting everybody for when like guys started pressing up their entire routine onto 2 records. Like, oh, that's cheating. You're just putting your routine on 2 vinyls. But I mean, basically everybody is doing that now. They're just control vinyls and not, you know, really expensive factory records they had to get made.
I'm always impressed by the people who were able to take their record off the turntable and throw the next one on that quick, because I was always really clumsy with that in the club when I try to, back in the day when I try to do a quick mix. And back then I think quick mix was letting one verse play and then the chorus and then putting the next record on, but I was always really clumsy with that, so that kind of always impressed me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely takes a lot of practice. I remember putting routines together when I was like 15 and 16, and that was the main thing. Like, how much time am I going to have to take off this record and put on this next one? And, you know, there is still people in the DMC like only using vinyl, but now it's almost like they do it with a chip on their shoulder. Like, yeah, I'm a vinyl guy. Like, you know, whatever, all you other guys using Serato, you're all whack because you're not on records anymore. And then, you know, then that vinyl guy's routine is kind of like, all right. I mean, you probably wouldn't have placed in a DMC with that all vinyl routine a decade ago, so I'm not going to give you props for it now just because you're on vinyl. Like, I don't really weigh that. You know, sure, it's a little bit harder, but if your routine isn't any better, then I'm not going to give you extra credit, you know?
Yeah. Was everybody on Serato, or were people using other programs as well?
I'm pretty sure that Serato is the only like digital DJ interface that they're allowing right now. Okay. So they're either on Serato or vinyl.
Yeah, I thought that all the turntablists were using Tractor these days. I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, you know, a lot of them are. I guess it's probably a politics thing why they're not letting, you know, a bunch of different programs up there. And I'm sure that would be a pretty big headache too, going from one digital software program to the next. It already seems like it's like a mission just to get one guy off and the next guy on. At least from what I've seen in the regional battles. Like, I remember it took 15 minutes for a guy to get his laptop plugged in. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You should not be at a battle right now. You should be home.
Hey, well, you do have a lot of friends who are turntablists from all your networking and teaching at the school. What percentage of the guys do use Tractor versus Serato that you know?
That I personally know, I mean, I know one guy who's affiliated with us at Scratch Miami who's like super into Tractor. Maybe two, like one or two guys. But I think for the most part, you know, everyone is still mainly working as a DJ rather than just trying to be a turntablist. and it still seems like they sort of gravitate to the Serato side, just because of the ease of how easy it is to use and how user friendly it is. But I've been tested before by a few guys like who swear by the program, like, here, scratch on this and then scratch on Serato and compare, and like I'll definitely say, like, yeah, Tractor sounds and feels way better for scratching on, at least. But to DJ on, I still feel like I would need to sit there on that program for a little bit before I'd feel very comfortable on it. So yeah, I would say it's like 80% of us that I know personally are on Serato still.
Okay.
So how many more years do you think we have with the DMC battle? I mean, as far as turntables themselves kind of being on their way out, I mean, are they going to switch to a different type of turntable once they can't get techniques anymore? Are they going to switch to CDJs for the battle, or is the battle just going to go away completely?
That's a good question, man. I'd hate to speculate there. I mean, I would hope the battle wouldn't go away completely, just because it is, such an iconic thing, and it's been around for so long. If you look back to what the battle used to be, like in the early, maybe, I don't know, earlier, mid 80s, whenever the DMC originated, it wasn't a scratching battle, like it wasn't a turntablist battle. It was like, hey, mix these records, like, we'll see who does it the best. So it kind of reinvented itself in that way. And if you look at it in that way, the fact that it reinvented itself then and went as long as it did until now, being that type of battle without having to change it all, is kind of, like, it had a good run. So I would think they eventually will have to maybe switch the format if things don't pick up for them. I wouldn't think it would go away completely. And I'm definitely not of the opinion that techniques are like in a shortage, even if they aren't being made, or if they are. Every day it's like I get a new link to a news article telling me about whether or not techniques are around. Like, dude, who cares? They were the best-selling turntable ever for like 30 years. There's plenty of them out there. I don't think you're not going to be able to find one. You might find them overpriced, or from some guy who's trying to jack up the price on them because he thinks that they're like limited. But like, I've got 12 techniques of my own, so like, they're not going anywhere. They're out there. You can get them. So I don't think they'd have to switch for that reason. But yeah, maybe they'll try to switch to, like, I would think like a DMC subdivision, like a controller battle or something like that. That might be a good idea, so that they at least have the outlet for it before they like can their whole battle all together. Maybe test it out. Like, let's see how many people are interested. They're kind of doing that with the online battle. I don't know if you guys are following that at all.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too, kind of how the online battle is maybe affecting the live battle, and just how the online battle is doing in general.
Yeah, from what I hear, it does pretty well. I mean, anything on the internet's obviously going to be way easier for people to follow and get involved with than, flying out to New York or flying to wherever the regional is in their city. But yeah, I mean, last year I know it did really well. I'm pretty sure collectively it got over like 1 million views between everybody's videos. I know it's, super easy for you to enter. I mean, all we'd have to do is point this webcam to my right and film a routine, and then that could be my online routine, So anybody can get involved, and there's pretty open limit on like what you're allowed to use. Like, I think certain controllers or MIDI controllers are okay, and there's a little bit more freedom there, like, than the DMC battle, where it's like, all right, you got to use these tables and our mixer and no MIDI controllers, and that's it. So I think that might end up taking off better and better for them as the years go by. I just have to wait and see if that happens or not.
Yeah, maybe that's the next evolution. I definitely think some kind of controller battle would be a good thing to add, just to kind of test it out and see where that goes. And that's definitely seems to be the future of things right now, as far as the younger generation of DJs goes. So,
do you have any luck scratching on CDJs? Like, what's that even like? I mean,
I don't like it. I can scratch on them. I mean, I've taught people how to scratch on them.
So let's put you at 100% scratching on vinyl. What percent compared to that 100 are you if you had to do the same routine on CDJs?
If we're involving like beat juggling and like everything in a routine, like then it would be a little more difficult for me because like I've never tried to beat juggle on a pair of CDJs just because I've never like had routines or anything like that ready with a pair of CDJs in front of me. But I mean, for doing like club stuff and the little bit of scratching I might do like in a club performance, I would be at like 80% compared to vinyl. I mean, it just feels a little bit different. I have to look at like I usually cue the CDJ thing, like that little line that rolls around on the platter. Like I set all my cues a certain way so that I can just look there, like it's like I'm pretending I'm looking at a record. But you know, the fact that it doesn't move kind of throws you off a little bit. Overall, I don't mind. I know a lot of guys who like hate playing on CDJs. Like Craze hates CDJs. He's very public about that. And whatever, you know, that guy can use whatever he wants. I don't care what he uses. I mean, it's crazy. He can pretty much do whatever he wants to do. I don't mind them, but yeah, I would definitely prefer to be on a pair of turntables and a pair of CDJs. It's just easier. It's like what I grew up using. But if you never used vinyl and you're trying to learn scratching now and you're on a pair of CDJs, there's really hardly anything you can't do on those that a vinyl could do. So a lot of things you can do on them are even easier. So either whatever you want to use, I would say go for it as long as you know you care about it enough to try to learn the right way.
Nothing beats a pair of turntables, that's for sure.
For me, yeah, I would.
All right, well, I think that definitely kind of covers the current state of turntablism right now. It's kind of in flux, it seems like, but hopefully next year the DMCs will have a better outlook. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, all you can do is try to support it if it's coming into your city or your town. Go to the battle. Try to encourage others. I'm sure you guys know a ton of DJs. Not even locally, but of course, nationally. If you know a DMC battle is coming to their town and they're kind of like on the fence about entering, like they don't think they're good enough or they're afraid they're gonna not do well, I would tell them like, dude, just enter it anyway. Like no one enters a battle for the first time ever and wins the whole thing and goes all the way to the world finals like on their first try. You got to get out there.
You weren't watching me in '98. You missed that.
That was you?
Yeah, that was me.
You look different now.
I had hair back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, though. Definitely, if you have the itch, scratch it, join in, and battle. Just do it. Just do it.
Very good. Very good.
All right, Rob, thank you so much for coming back on and talking with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
No doubt. Thanks, guys.
All right, so thank you again to Rob for giving us a little recap of the DMCs.
And you heard that Rubbing Records, there's probably going to be an episode sometime in the near future.
Hopefully, because we know even if you're new to DJing or using a controller or whatever, you can still use a lot of those scratch skills to spice up your sets. So definitely stay tuned for that and check out the old Rubbing Records segments if you haven't already. Those
are classics. Those can still be watched.
Yeah, in that side of the video on the webpage.
You sure it's that side? Because sometimes we get confused about this.
It's on one of the sides.
One of the sides, okay.
The side that has the list of all the sections.
I still can't get over it. It's the weirdest thing when we interview people on our site. The way we see ourselves on our laptop that we're doing this on is the opposite of the way we look now when we're not interviewing people. It's just a weird thing for me to comprehend.
It's weird, right?
It is very weird.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times when we point to the sides, we mess that up. The only thing we don't mess up is up or down. Yeah. Anyway, we do have some more to talk about. We were discussing something off camera, and we thought it might be a good idea to just kind of discuss it here, which is kind of the state of the music and how we feel about what we're playing now, which is a lot of EDM, obviously. Sorry for those of you who don't like that phrase.
And people say they don't like that phrase. Listen, the phrase EDM has been around forever. I mean, people act like it has just come into existence in the last 2 years.
Well, I think they don't like it because it gets kind of overused a lot. It does kind of annoy me when people overuse a new catchphrase. I do get.
It's not
annoyed.
a new catchphrase. I heard EDM back when I was in high school.
Not new, but it's new to most people who say it. I didn't say.
Right,
I never said the word EDM prior to this year.
All right. Well, It's been around a long time. That's all I'm trying to say. And maybe it has grown in popularity, like the genre of music or the genres of music that it encompasses, but it's not a new phrase.
So I was thinking back anyway to when we did a club called the Palace in Hartford, this is probably
4 or 5 years ago.
No, this was I want to say '06. So this was probably 6 years ago, about. And I remember that was like the height of the mashup era. Maybe towards the end of it, I would say, but it was still in its prime when it started. And I was thinking of some of the stuff that I played back then and how much things have changed now. And I asked JD, I'm like, when you started at Shrine, which that was probably how many years ago?
It was just over 4 years ago. Yeah.
So you were doing Shrine. I think you just started when towards the end of the Palace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I asked you if you ever played Sweet Home Alabama on a Friday night at Shrine, and the answer was yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I'm even thinking back to I heard some of Chachi's sets that he played there, and there was a lot of '80s in his sets. And I remember AM and Jazzy Jeff did a show there at the beginning of Shrine. I think
July 4th.
That was the first year that Shrine was open.
Yeah.
And I'm sure AM played a lot of that kind of stuff too. And it's just crazy to think that nowadays you just can't get away with that at all. Like Sweet Home Alabama at a nightclub, a serious nightclub, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't go. Actually, I shouldn't say it wouldn't go over well because you can get away with playing a lot of stuff the last song of the night or in your last few songs, but as far as playing it at 1:15 even, it probably wouldn't go over that well.
I agree it probably wouldn't, but I'm not sure if I agree just because we've kind of been trained in the last couple of years to believe that it wouldn't work, or if it actually wouldn't work. I don't know. Like I kind of feel like music is kind of like really segregated right now into different sections, and most of that is due to like the BPM ranges that certain genres are in. They're very BPM restricted. Like people for some reason can't make dubstep unless it's 70 BPM, and they can't make house unless it's either 126 or 128 BPM or maybe 130.
Well, if it's not 126 to 130, then it's just not house.
Well, that's the misconception, isn't it?
Is it a misconception?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look at as a song like "Starry Eyed Surprise House."
I thought of it.
It's considered one of the
pop. I thought
one of the top 100 house songs of all time, isn't it?
Really?
It's 100 BPM.
I didn't realize it was house.
Made by Paul Oakenfold.
I play that song sometimes. No, it's a good song. There's a guy from Crazy Town sings it.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
Who'd you think it was?
I didn't know who it was, but so I mean, hip hop. Just because hip hop doesn't have to be 95 beats per minute. You could make a hip hop song that's 120 beats per minute, and you can make a hip hop song that's 125 beats per minute. Look at Trick Daddy. Was it In the House?
Take it to
the house. Yeah, 125 beats per minute. Hip hop, nonetheless, right?
Well, I mean,
so it does. I mean, people are very snobby about what BPM their genres have to be at.
When you say snobby, I mean The Game. Picture someone like The Game. It's just a random example.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really picture him doing a 125 BPM song. It's just not that gangster.
Maybe. So, but he has to be at 100 BPM. He can't be at 110.
I cap it at 105 for a game.
Obviously, I mean, different, and each song is its own thing. So it depends on the song, but
anyway,
But back to the original point is, I mean, I think we could, as DJs, if we knew going into the night that we wanted to drop Sweet Home Alabama at 12:30, let's say, kind of peak hour, that going into the night, we could probably set the night up by playing the right kind of music leading up to it that when we dropped it, it wouldn't seem so left field that people would be like, just like stop dancing, like, whoa, why is this happening right now? You know, there are ways to set it up that it wouldn't seem quite so out of the ordinary. And that's basically what we used to do in the mashup era. Is the whole night was kind of crazy like that, so people didn't really seem that surprised when we dropped stuff like that. But there's still ways to do that and work some of that stuff in without it being quite to the level of cheesiness that it was in the mashup era. I think.
One thing I was saying though is that in terms of like why we don't do it now when it was so accepted 6 years ago,
even 4 years ago,
4 years ago, it's just I mean it's the same reason we really didn't play it 10 years ago. It's just because it wasn't accepted back then. 4 years ago it was accepted, and now it's just not really accepted anymore. It's like things have just gotten so very serious with the music you play right now. There's nothing, you're not really supposed to do anything too out of the ordinary. It's like you play your serious house music and then you drop it down to 70 BPM to play Pop That, Work Hard, Play Hard, Paris, and then you go up until you find a transition that'll take you back to 125 or 128, and then you start all over again. At least that's how my nights have kind of become like that. I mean, I play a few house songs, I guess, where it'll drop down to hip hop for a second and then back up. But you're very right that it is segregated, and it's just, I mean, I don't know how to put it besides just things are so serious right now in the club. Like nothing just out of the ordinary.
And I mean, but are things serious because we perceive them that way, or are they actually that way? I mean, is everything so serious because we're just too ingrained in what we're doing to try and take some risks and play some stuff that's a little out of the ordinary that, you know what, I can't figure out, it doesn't really make 100% sense to play this right now after this song. It's like, makes about 60% sense, but I'm going to play it anyway. Or I'm not going to play it because it doesn't make 100% sense to play it after this song. Like, why not just cut to some random song?
I don't know. I just don't know if it would go over good. I mean, when I say serious, it's like, think about the mashup era, which was the opposite of serious in a way. It was like anything that was cheesy meant that it was popular, and the more popular, almost the better for the mashup era. The mashup era took all the popular stuff that we weren't playing in the clubs before and allowed us to play that. And the first thing you thought of when you were kind of transitioning into the mashup era is, what was that really popular song that I used to know all the words to 10 years ago? I can actually play that song now, even as silly as it was. People know it. Anything that people know was perfect for the mashup era. The rocket scientists used the Jeopardy theme when they played, because although that's a song we never play nowadays, that's a song people knew. It wasn't on the radio, and we weren't playing it during the hip hop era, but it's one of the most popular songs, I want to say, of all time. I mean, it's one of the
most recognizable
tunes. It's a tune of all time, and that's what allowed you to play it during the mashup era. It was like back then, for like, you wanted to find kind of a song that no one else was playing, you try to think of a good 80s song that maybe kind of might have been slept on. One song I remember when I was a kid was that song Shattered Dreams. You remember that song? You know what I'm talking about?
I can't picture it right now.
It's you definitely recognize it if you heard it, and it's a song that I think a lot of people might recognize if they heard. When I say recognize, I mean, think about all the times you're at Walmart or just from commercials, just anywhere you hear music where it's not you're not choosing it, it's kind of just background. You do pick up on songs like that, so those are perfect for the mashup era. Trying to think of hidden gems like that. Now, a hidden gem is a remix that you don't think anyone else is playing of a house song. That's like a hidden gem.
So why'd things go from being so carefree and fun in the mashup era? Why are things so serious now? Like,
I wonder.
isn't the club supposed to be a fun, exciting, like, let's just party environment? Like,
Well, see, if that's true, then how come everyone got so sick of hype in the songs? It's just, I think people just got maybe tired of it.
just
Because I mean, we both have we've kind of grown out of having hype on every song. Not that we were ever like the craziest people like who had it in every song in the first place, but I think we did it obviously a lot more during the mashup era, and now we both kind of avoid it. I kind of avoid it.
And maybe that was a lot of the songs we played in the mashup era were like 80s songs that weren't super hype themselves. You added Fat Man Scoop to it, that made those songs a little bit more exciting than even the fact that they're like, oh, it's a song I haven't heard in 10 years. Holy crap. But also has like that hype over it to bring it to that next level.
It kind of made it more hip hop in a way.
Now, and with production being where it is, like everything hitting so hard and energy being up so much and like house music and stuff like that, you don't really need that hype, I guess, quite as much. Maybe.
No, that's a possibility. I mean, I don't know. As far as the music goes, I just wonder if it got played out in general. Like, I mean, Jesse's Girl, The Outfield, Sweet Home Alabama. It's like that's the other thing you have to think about too, is if someone told you to incorporate rock into your club gig now as Shrine, you would draw for the most popular songs. You would never draw for obscure ones to put in there. So it's just changed so much.
And it's weird to think, like 4 years ago, it was hard to imagine a night where you wouldn't play Don't Stop Believin'. And now it's like, when was the last time I played that at a club? I don't know. And I think part of me feels like the digital computer revolution is really what sparked that whole mashup culture, basically because all of a sudden, instead of being limited to the certain record or CD collection you had, now you had unlimited amounts of music that you could pull from, and it was almost like a new age of digging for songs, where instead of digging through records at a record store or the used CD bin at FYE or something, you could just search the old Billboard charts and find some weird song that no one had played in a while, and maybe you were the first one to come across that and actually work it into a set.
You know what though? What you just said kind of made me wonder if maybe DJs just have super ADD, because we got excited when the mashup era came about, and we got to search for all those old 80s songs that we'd forgotten about. And I never knew who sang that song, Centerfold, the Jay Giles band. I found out that kind of stuff, and brushing all those 80s songs off, and even doing some research into it. And once all the research was done and we'd played those songs 100 times, house started becoming popular, and it's like, okay, now let me start researching house and finding out what some of the classic house songs are. And it's like, as much as you were able to immerse yourself into the mashup era, once that kind of ended, now it's like we get to immerse ourselves into a brand new thing, and it's kind of exciting adding all these new house songs to our crates. So I wonder if that played a part in it as well.
I think so. I mean, we definitely do have ADD and getting sick of playing all the classics over and over and over again. I mean, and how many times can you hear the same old songs over and over again? You want to hear something new after a while, something just different.
It seems like more of these house songs are just such throwaways nowadays. I'm trying to think of a good example. I mean, I see certain songs that'll probably be played for a while. Even like Save the World. I'm not sure how many people play that song now, but I'm sure that'll be a song that we'll probably be able to play in 5 years. But there's a lot of other songs, in particular, the songs that don't have words, that are just like straight electro bangers. I hate to say it, but they're kind of there's songs like that that are a dime a dozen. and those songs will just be thrown away. Like you'll just totally forget about.
There's
them.
a couple. I mean, if you go back to
trying to think of a good example.
The trance days, and there's a couple popular songs that really didn't have words that you can still play today, or people would recognize. I mean, there's obviously Sandstorm, stuff like
I have a good example.
like Kerncraft 400, maybe Blood is Pumping by Voodoo and Serrano, stuff like that. But and that's 3 songs from that whole like millennium house trance explosion that we could name now.
No, but I thought of a good example to my point, which was a song like Metropolis.
Yeah.
No one's gonna play that in a year, 6 months. Even better, a song like "Here We Go." Is that Swanky Tunes or is that? I think it might be. You know the song I'm talking about, right? Like, who's gonna be playing that in a year?
Nobody.
I mean, I'm trying to think if I'm just being biased right now, or if hip hop was the same way. There's obviously throwaway hip hop songs, but I think the fact that they do have words, there'll always be people who request it, and we do always get requests for random hip hop songs. I mean, I still get requests for even the other day I got a request for "Conceited" by Remy Martin, because there's always someone who likes the words to a song. And I just can't imagine in a year anyone ever asking me for Metropolis.
And how many times do you get asked to play Make 'Em Say
I haven't had that one in a while, actually. But in terms of the way hip hop goes, I think most songs, this is top 40 as well, that make it to your prime time set at any point, there's always a chance you could be playing that song again in 5 or maybe 10 years. Probably in 5 years, there's always a chance that someone could ask for it again. As far as your primetime house set goes, I think there's a lot of songs that in 3 months, you may never, ever, ever play it again.
You may only play it one time.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, house in a way, this is another way to look at it, is almost, I compare it a lot to reggae, or even reggaeton in this way, that people at the club just want to hear that genre, and they'll dance to any reggae you play. If they want to hear reggae, they'll dance to reggae they don't know. They just want to hear that bounce, or I don't know what it is. Same way with reggaeton. Mm-hmm. You could play a reggaeton song that came out that day that no one knows, and the people who want to hear reggaeton will still dance to it. And in that way, house is kind of the same, where if someone asks you for house, they do want to hear the stuff they know, but if you snuck in something they didn't know, they're still going to dance to it if they like the build up and if they like the way the song is. Where hip hop isn't really like that. You can't really sneak in hip hop that people don't know as much. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Just not sure about the state of music right now.
I mean,
what the future will hold. Like what really is the future of EDM? Has it reached its peak? Is it about to slow down? I talked to Vinny Vibe earlier this week, and we were kind of talking about the same subject, and he was saying how he thinks house is going to go back kind of underground, although he does believe like pop music is going to kind of take over that house sound, kind of like it has. I mean, if you look at like the new will.i.am stuff with like Ava Simmons, like stuff like that, that pop oriented house is going to take over the top 40 arena, but house is going to go back kind of underground. That's what he thinks, which I can definitely see.
So I wonder if that means, like, I know a lot of DJs who play hip hop at nightclubs, some of the bigger clubs. We always like to drop some of the obscure kind of more gangster stuff every so often. So I wonder if that'll be the equivalent of playing some of the harder house in a year or two, if that were to happen to house music and it did become kind of underground. I wonder how it would still get play in the bigger nightclubs out there. One thing that Vibe also said to me, which is something I had said to you a while ago, is I remember we were all playing at Scorpion Bar. We were playing some house, we were actually playing probably a pop remix, and the breakdown came, and Vibe was just like, dude, he's like, every song has that now. It just randomly goes to that part. And I'd actually noticed that I want
You
to
mean
say
like Starships or Pound the Alarm, like that kind of thing?
I think it was a remake. It could have been it could have been one of those, but it was like just some remix. And I don't hate to point out to just one DJ in particular as an example. I'm not really trying to call him out because this is just an example of stuff that's really going on with everything. I think it's I want to say the Gregory Klossman remix of the Neo, the new one, Let Me Love You.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes to this breakdown that's just, it's not creative at all. To me, it doesn't sound appealing at all. And it's just like the best example I could think of just something that's there just because he felt it kind of had to be there. I'll play it for you after you guys could.
I know what you're talking about actually, and
it's just like, to me, it's just nothing. The breakdown is just nothing. It's just there, and
it almost takes away from the song.
It does.
It's like if you cut out that breakdown and just got on with like the chorus of the actual song, like the vocal chorus part, just cut out that part. It might be playable and make sense and actually have a normal top 40 crowd enjoying the song. But as soon as you add that craziness in, there's so many versions of songs. I was going through songs the other day, like trying to add stuff to like my opening set. And there's a lot of songs just like that where they start off like, hey, this would be perfect to play in my opening set. This would be great. And then it gets to that crazy breakdown. And you're like, well, there goes that. Why couldn't they just make it?
It's tougher finding. It's a lot tougher finding songs for your opening set these days in terms of remixes.
Because they all get crazy hard.
What about that Pink Pink remix, "Blow Me One Last Kiss," that I played for you?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been kind of a good, excuse me, it would have been a good primetime song, but it didn't just get crazy. It just got absolutely insane, like way too insane.
And it's like songs like that, you go from, if you play them, because you're playing Pink, "Blow Me One Last Kiss," that's kind of cheesy to begin with. Yeah, it's top 40, but it's like super pop top 40. So if you play it, you're going for like that super girly part of your crowd. But then it goes into that crazy breakdown, which is geared towards like the house people. But the house people are already turned off because you're playing Pink. And then when you play the crazy breakdown, the girls that you were going for by playing the song to begin with look at you like, what the hell is this? So in trying to please both those crowds, I think you're just alienating both of them.
I do agree with that, and that's the argument you just used is why I don't like trap music. But that's a whole different thing that we won't get into. I'm sure we'll get into it in the future. Who are we kidding? But I do agree with what you said, and I remember. I don't want to mention any more names, but I just remember it was like maybe a year and a half ago. I heard a popular, it was a pop song, and it just went into the crazy Dutch break. And a year and a half or 2 years ago was the point when I just said, wow, this is silly. Like every song is starting to do this. And I was like, the next few songs I heard like that, I'm like, I can't take this anymore. But then something happened to me after, and I just kind of got immune to it. And I play a lot of those songs now, and it's just kind of accepted. That's what happens. That's what happens in a song now, is that verse, chorus, breakdown for 16 or 32, more likely 32 bars, and then repeat. And it's just like every
Wash,
song,
rinse, repeat.
Yeah, every song has it. It's kind of amazing that we get away with that, letting every song do that.
I just wish, because music and sounds are so segregated right now, I just wish there was a way to go between like a house sound and hip hop sound without having to transition tempos constantly.
Well, I mean,
and I guess that is why we have trap and moonbatone, and that's basically house at different tempos is a way you could look at it. But
see, you know the crazy thing is during the mashup era, you didn't even have to set it up all that well. Like you were explaining how now if we're going to play Sweet Home Alabama in a club, you kind of have to would be the tone of your night that set it up. When I say set it up, I agree that you have to set it up with the tone, like from the beginning, like the crowd knows that anything goes. But I'm just talking like during the mashup era, you could be playing Rude Boy by Rihanna, just a random example. The next song could be anything if you had a clever way to get into it.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some wordplay, or maybe you had a nice mixed in key mash that you were going to do after. But I mean, especially if you were playing hip hop, I have a feeling that if the mashup era was still around when like the Dougie was around, I have a feeling DJ would have been using some crazy songs after the Dougie. Like if they had the acapella out for that, like it's just like anything could go. Like after one song, you didn't have to do the whole 70 to 100, then transition to house. It was like you were just all over the place back then, and it was kind of fun.
It was. I wonder if we'll ever get back to not the mashup days, but just that carefree, like let's just have fun with our music environment again anytime soon.
You think of the club nowadays, and I always equate fun in the club to sing along songs. That's just like the definition of just fun. Everyone's singing along.
That was the definition of the mashup era. Yeah.
You don't really have anyone singing along unless they sing to Cinema or Save the World nowadays. That doesn't seem as fun.
And those aren't not the funnest songs to sing to.
No. Your fun's going to be ruined in 30 seconds because the breakdown's about to come. You're just going to have to start jumping up and down.
Man.
Yeah.
You have to drink Red Bull just to be able to keep up with the breakdowns.
Maybe we're just old, like Solar says.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's fun music out there and people are playing it, but it just seems like the top 40 mainstream club environment has gotten away from it a little bit.
Another thing is, I don't remember anybody during the mashup era saying, "When is this going to end? I can't take this anymore." I mean, maybe it was there.
People definitely did.
Did they?
Especially over like hype. People were like, "When is the hype?"
Well, no, I remember people said it for the hype, but I don't remember anyone.
People hated though. A lot of people hated mashups.
Did they?
Oh yeah.
I'm probably just biased because I didn't want it to end. But I mean, I can't imagine more people were saying it back then than they are now. Like, I don't know. Let us know what you think.
Definitely.
Very curious to hear your opinions.
Instead of us rambling on anymore.
I think people got the point.
Yeah. And let us know. I mean, maybe we're off base. Maybe we're in our own little bubble. And it seems like that to us. Maybe things are different where you're at. I mean, we definitely like to hear what things are like in other parts of the country, at other clubs. And
you know what? We're talking, we should mention this. We're talking about the bottle service clubs, obviously, because there's still bars who want the mashup stuff there. And it's definitely not every kind of club. We're talking about bottle service. So
let us know how things are in your neck of the woods. Leave a comment down there.
Or email us remixreport@gmail.com.
Remixreport.com.